How did Howard Schultz go from a poor kid in Brooklyn to become the coffee king of the world? Or in other words, how did he build Starbucks? He grew up in a housing project in Brooklyn. He had big dreams and aspirations, but his reality was far from ideal. He watched his dad work a series of dead-end jobs and never really have any time off. And he never had health insurance, which led to him dying of a heart attack when Howard was only 12 years old. So this experience taught Howard a very important leadership lesson about empathy, about looking after your people, and also the importance of health and work-life balance. It was during his teenage years that he stumbled upon a local deli that served coffee. And this wasn't just coffee for him. It was actually an experience. It was a way to bring people together and connect with them through a special drink. This is where his obsession with coffee started. So while he was still in college, he hustled and got a job at Xerox as a salesman. That was his first step into the business world. And then he got a promotion to regional sales manager by age 26. And then one day he found out about a small Seattle coffee company called Starbucks. They were selling coffee beans from around the world and roasting them locally. And he thought, this is what I want to do. This is my calling. But everyone around him told him to stay away from it because there was no money in coffee. But he didn't listen to them. He drove all the way from New York to Seattle to meet with Starbucks. When he walked into that store, he knew right away, this is exactly what I want to be doing. And he asked the founders if he could buy the company from them, but they refused. They said, we'll never sell you our company. We will never sell Starbucks. You're crazy if you think you can make money selling coffee. But he didn't let this defeat him. Instead, he flew to Italy. He went to Milan, where he experienced the amazing Italian coffee culture firsthand. And he thought to himself, I am going to bring this type of environment to the US, to bring this warm and fuzzy feeling of community and friendship and family to the US, and to make it all happen in a cafe setting. So he came back home and he convinced some investors to give him millions of dollars to buy Starbucks. And when they said yes, he opened up his own cafe called Il Giornale, which means the newspaper in Italian. And it was exactly like those Italian cafes. There was no drive-thru. There was no seating. It was just a place to grab a coffee and go. And within a year, he bought Starbucks for $3 million. At this point, everyone thought he was crazy. Not only did he buy a coffee shop, but he made it a super expensive coffee shop. He wanted to sell coffee the same way that Italians sold it. He wanted to create a place where people felt comfortable coming in, where they could sit down, they could enjoy a cup of hot coffee, they could talk about their day, they could read the newspaper, they could people watch. And if it was cold outside, they could enjoy a nice mug of hot chocolate. And if it was hot outside, they could enjoy an ice-blended frappuccino. His vision was to create something that would become the third place in people's lives after work and home. He wanted to be that place where people could come to relax and enjoy themselves. For the next 10 years, he worked tirelessly to turn Il Giornale into Starbucks. And he opened up several locations in Seattle and the surrounding areas. But eventually he wanted to expand across the country. Some people doubted if this would be possible. Some competitors even laughed at the idea of selling expensive coffee in paper cups on the street corner. They said it wouldn't work. They tried to copy his concept and they failed. Schultz kept moving forward despite all the doubts and critics. He believed in giving customers the best experience possible. He focused on details like training baristas to make the perfect latte art. He introduced new drinks like the caramel macchiato and the pumpkin spice latte, which are still popular today. In fact, they created the ultimate customer loyalty program with the Starbucks card. This allowed customers to pay for their drinks and also track their rewards. Also, every store had free Wi-Fi, which was very rare back then, and they even had mobile ordering before it was cool. These innovations helped Starbucks grow very fast. By 1997, they had over 2,000 stores nationwide, and then they went global, expanding to countries like China and Japan. Some people doubted if Starbucks would succeed in these countries because coffee wasn't as popular there, but Schultz had a plan. In China, for example, he realized that tea was a bigger part of the culture than coffee. So instead of fighting it, he embraced it, created a special line of teas called the Jade Ring, which became very popular among Chinese consumers. Starbucks didn't just sell coffee, it was a cultural phenomenon. People saw the logo and they knew they were getting high-quality coffee with a special experience. It wasn't just a drink, it was a lifestyle. So why did Starbucks become so successful? Because of one man who dared to dream big and go against the grain. a man who saw potential in coffee that nobody else saw. As the company grew, so did Schultz's leadership. He cared deeply about his employees, gave them health insurance, stock options, and paid for their college tuition. He was one of the first CEOs to offer these benefits, which helped him attract and retain the best talent. He also believed in values-driven capitalism. He believed that businesses had a responsibility to do good in the world, and that they shouldn't just focus on making profits. Some people thought his leadership style was too soft and not focused enough on numbers and profits. But he didn't care, followed his heart, and he believed in something bigger than himself. He built a team of passionate individuals who loved what they did and who shared his vision. They weren't just baristas, they were brand ambassadors. They were part of the Starbucks family. So, what was his biggest secret? His biggest competitive advantage? His biggest strength as a leader? It was his relentless focus on the customer experience. He knew that if he took care of his customers, they would take care of his business. He understood that people didn't just want a cup of coffee, they wanted a warm and fuzzy feeling inside. They wanted to feel valued and appreciated. They wanted to feel part of something bigger than themselves. So he created a culture of caring at Starbucks. He trained his baristas to remember people's names and to make them feel special. He made sure that every store looked inviting and comfortable. He created a place where people could feel at home. After reading this, you might think everything was easy for Schultz, but that's not the case. He faced many challenges throughout his career. In 2008, for example, Starbucks began to lose its magic. People complained that the coffee wasn't as good as before. The stores were too crowded and the service was too slow. Starbucks needed a change, but no one knew what to do. That's when Schultz stepped in. He'd retired from Starbucks 5 years earlier, but he couldn't resist the call for help. He returned as CEO and fixed the problems that plagued the company. He focused on quality again. He hired more baristas, and he improved the customer experience. Under his leadership, Starbucks became profitable again, and its stock price soared. What's the most important thing that we can learn from Schultz? That no matter how tough things get, you should never give up on your vision. Don't be afraid to take risks and follow your dreams. You don't have to be born into a rich family or have a silver spoon to be successful. All you need is a great idea and the courage to pursue it. If you like stories like this one, you'll love the one about John Paul DeJoria, the billionaire who owns Paul Mitchell and Patron Tequila. Click here to see his Underdog story.